Hi, everyone. Welcome to this show. We're going to have an open discussion here. Thank you all for being here. And what we want to talk about today is the fact that we really feel the pain of so many people out there who really struggle to find a good doctor. It has become almost impossible in many parts of the country to find a good doctor. What happened to those good old days of old where we had community doctors? And we feel your pain. We know what's going on. We try to do our best within the system. And I hear all of the concerns and all of the complaints from many people around me with regards to their interactions. So what we want to talk about here is how you know if you have a good doctor and what you should be on the lookout for if you're searching currently for a good doctor in your area who will truly listen to you. And the very first thing that I want to talk about is really the first impression that you get when you walk in the room. How do you feel about that doctor you're interacting with? What do you guys think of how anybody should kind of gauge their doctor?
I think first impressions are everything. And I can't imagine, for you as patients coming in and the wait to see a new doctor or primary care can be months. And then the new doctor walks in and the first impression is that they're not even making eye contact with me. Maybe they've made you wait a long time, but they're not even empathetic to that your time is valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing you can tell too, have they reviewed your chart at all? So, sometimes always when I meet a patient, I've gone through their chart to make sure that, I know the basic idea of what's happened to them, what medications they're on, things like that. And if this doctor in front of you has absolutely no idea what you've been through or who you are or anything like that, that's not a great sign. I probably haven't looked at your chart, haven't done the homework. So that's one thing to look for.
Yeah, they should really know your goals. And I think that you can probably pick up on that quite quickly, whether a doctor knows you or not. And I think really good eye contact is really key. And then just, in this day and age with computers are really taking over healthcare is a doctor just sitting behind the screen and you're separated from the doctor? Are you having that connection with them? I think that, again, it goes back to first impressions.
Yeah, and I think everybody out there has their own gut instinct. We're probably telling you a lot of what you already get a sense of, but it's really important with healthcare to connect with your doctor. And if you get a bad impression, I would highly suggest that you just run as far as you can. Hopefully you have other choices until you find that doctor who you connect with. And the research is that usually first impressions are actually right in any sphere of life. Usually if you get the sense that somebody looks you in the eye, greets you, wants to be there, and is giving off those vibes of empathy and compassion, which are so true for healthcare and need to come from your clinician.
I agree. I mean, I think what I imagine and what I know how the flow should be, and this is what I try to do, is they should know what you talked about, Ben, is your information, your goals before they walk in to see you. I mean, that's just a horrible way to start your relationship with a patient, not knowing anything about them. I do feel like that just sets up the proper substrate for having a really good visit, and I do think eye contact is really important. And I do think that again, separating the computer from the patient and really just having more of a hands-on approach, and then really just coming back towards the end of the visit is really making the patient part of the visit. And I think if you feel like you're not collaborating and you're being dictated to, then I think it's probably time that relationship is not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I have a friend that actually went to his doctor recently. He was talking to me because he was upset about the visit, but he said he walked in and right away, the person started talking about the vaccines that he needed, the tests he needed to have done. He wasn't even there for any of that. He was there because he was really worried about two issues regarding his health that they never got to. The doc had no interest in talking about them. I mean, so when you come in and they have an agenda and they want to talk about, two things that really aren't about you, just like vaccines in general that they think you need or something else, without sitting down with you, asking how you're doing, seeing how it's going, what are you worried about today? If it doesn't start like that, I'd be worried because that's how it's supposed to start.
Or I like the phrase as well, a doctor reaching for their prescription pad before they've even spoken to you. And it's just so tragic that this is how modern medicine has gone, that so many people, I have the same experience, Ben. I have so many people come to me after interactions with doctors, family and friends, who say, you wouldn't believe what just happened. That doctor didn't look at me in the eye, was looking at their computer screen, wasn't even asking me basic questions about how I am, but yet they were so intent on what pills you need, what shots you need. It is astonishing how far we've strayed from those principles of Hippocrates.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing in this day and age, if you feel like you're being rushed and you feel like it's a churn and not an office visit, it's just not a good situation. And I think that's, unfortunately, like where healthcare is been pushed into doctors into doing.
Yeah.
One thing I've actually heard about docs doing fairly regularly, I've never done this, but I've heard about it fairly regularly. Someone will come in for a wellness visit or a physical or something and say, I've got this thing I really want to talk about. I hurt my hand or I have a blood. And they'll say, nope, the visit's not about that today. You have to make a separate visit for that. I think that's psychotic. Like I can't imagine having someone come all the way into my office. They came for this issue. I'm not going to talk to them about it because the visit's not about that. That's insane. But I think if you do that, you've got a weird doctor or a system.
Well, it's a fundamental breakdown in the system. And I've actually experienced this myself as a physician, seeing a doctor where, like, they said, well, we'll talk about this topic, but the physical exam isn't really part of this appointment, but I'll just do it anyway. And I think actually telling me that took longer than just doing a physical exam on me. And I've seen horror stories where patients are not even examined by their doctors, and that's just a fundamental human touch in what we were all trained to do.
Yeah, just at least examine the patient. Yeah, and I'd say another red flag is afterwards, if a doctor is, again, coming back to this rushed issue, I know that time is limited, but you can't give off the impression as a doctor that you're in a hurry and you're going through a conveyor belt. I mean, every doctor should know not to give that impression, no matter how flustered or rushed they are. Does your doctor ask you at the end if you have any questions, or does he wave you out? I mean, that to me is so basic. Like, I never leave a patient's room without saying, look, do you have any questions? Now, obviously, if those are questions which I have to come back for, even later I will. But you have to at least ask that. I mean, we're talking about life and death here.
It's so true. And I think often, doctors will walk in and just assume, well, if you're an older person, that, you're just maybe not as sharp as you used to be, or you're tired because you're older. But a lot of times they're just not. It's just that generalization where every patient is so different. And I think if you as a doctor don't go in realizing that into the patient room, then that's set up for something bad to happen.
Problem. Yeah. Let's talk a bit about how you can find these good doctors out there, because good doctors are out there, tough to find. I would say one of the best ways is a recommendation from somebody in your life who raves about their doctor. And is there any way you could go in and see that doctor?
It's true. I mean, people go online and look, but again, it's I understand that people go online for reviews, and I do, and everyone does that. But again, someone might get good reviews, and they very well may be a great doctor, but it's just really about how are they connecting with you, and word of mouth. I mean, people, when I see who are moving away or going down south or someplace else or warm during the winter, always ask me, and I just said, listen, talk to your friends. They'll really tell you who the best doctors are.
Yeah, I mean, the other people that know who the best doctors are other doctors in that system. So I always refer to the same few physicians within the system because I trust them and I know they're great. And so if you already have a specialist in that system, or you have a primary care and you're looking for a specialist, ask them, because they're going to tell you who's good, and they're going to tell you who they trust and who they want you to see and who they don't. So ask the other doctors you may be seeing as well. That can be a very, we know who's good and we know who's not.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. People in the community, friends, family, if they have a great diet, they're going to tell you about it. So I think warm referrals are the best way to find
They are, yeah.
Nurses are a great source too. I mean, they really know a lot about doctors, and I think they can give a good recommendation overall.
Yeah. Oh, is that the hospital?
Page.
Doctors are very busy. So, and again, I would second that in terms of getting a warm referral. And the reality is, many doctors out there are just so full right now. That's a reality. I know that many of you may have experienced that. And this is where I think actually doctors who are just graduating can often be really good.
Absolutely.
Many times I've noticed new doctors coming into different towns, setting up practice, those who want to build up their practice, often the best ones to go to, and you'll find out very fast. if other doctors have no spaces left, because we know that space is at a premium in our current healthcare system. A lot of doctors get overwhelmed quickly, but never stop that search. That would be my final message to you, is that this is simply too important. Keep looking. And if you can't find any in real life, then maybe you can watch shows online, try to get some good advice. But ultimately, especially at a certain age, you will need a doctor in your area who can at least examine you when time is needed, that you have that rapport with. If you ever need a referral, that's really important. Realistically, I wish we could get everything online, but frequently, unfortunately, in healthcare, something has to be done in person. Do you have anything else to add to that? We'll have our closing statements here. Okay.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I think it can be hard. I mean, I understand most people are in areas where there's a huge shortage. I mean, it's incredibly hard to find a good doctor, and you sometimes feel like you can't afford to be picky, And but as you said, Sunil, it's so important to have that good relationship that I think searching is worth it. And there usually are places you can go, even if it's a bit of a drive, even if it's a little bit outside. It's worth it because it's so important. So do everything you can, and again, stay as educated as you can about all this. That is the best way to protect yourself against most things, is educating yourselves.
I agree. I mean, being your own advocate is always going to be so huge in healthcare, and I really, strive if you don't have that connection with a doctor, and you'll feel it within the first visit. And if they're not really respectful of your time or as you as a person and getting to know you better, then I think it's probably time that you find someone else.
Absolutely. Well worth it. Okay, everyone. Thank you for watching, and we are going to see you again very soon.